Hello, y'all, and welcome to this week's edition of The Classroom, starring myself, Double K. You know I bring it right here with the dual O'Malley or Suave, depending on the week. So y'all tune in and listen to what this week's hottest debate topics are right here on Four Aces Presents.
The following Four Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
All right. Hello, y'all, and welcome to this week's edition of The Classroom. That's right. It's me, Double K. Y'all just heard me last night on the KD5P over there on Live 365. This week, I'm coming back to you on that sports tip. All right, here on Spreaker.com, First Gen Xers. If you're listening in, thank you. Glad you're listening in. And I am joined by the one, the only, the soulful, sultry voice that has blessed our ears for many a years, all the way back to West Coast Bias, the one and only Mr. Suave. Suave, what is up, brother?
What up, man?
Not much, man. Like, we decided to crash back in, start, talking sports. It's been too long. Me and you talk sports almost on a daily. We could have our own first take type show, the way we be getting into it, Me being Stephen A and you being Max Kellerman, that'll work. Write it up, ESPN. Bring us in.
I'll take Bomani Jones, but it's good.
Bomani Jones. Oh, for sure. All right, so today we're going to take a look at the Super Bowl and kind of the many storylines that kind of came out of it. We'll start, we'll go in there and kick it off. I was going to save this till last, but we'll start with the game itself. Had to be what would be considered an instant classic between the Chiefs and the Eagles there. It looked like, to be honest with you, it looked like exactly what happened, almost exactly what happened to the 49ers a few years back, except the Eagles put up a few more points. So there was a game-winning field goal that was necessary, but it kind of felt like the same thing. 10-point lead at halftime. Kansas City comes roaring back. Like I said, they take the lead. The only difference is when they took the lead, the Eagles kept fighting. Whereas, like I told Suave here on many of occasions, I feel like the 49ers gave up and didn't really handle their business. But final score is 38-35. First, let's talk, before we talk about the second half, let's talk about the game overall. Suave, what were your thoughts on this game overall for both teams?
I mean, it was highly entertaining. It looked like the Eagles are going to be able to run away with it, but you can't discount Mahomes and Andy Reid. So, I mean, they made it a good game. Some people would rather get blown out, but I was just happy that it was a fairly exciting, competitive game.
Yeah, I kind of tuned in a little bit late. Like, I kind of tuned in at a point when the Eagles were already up 14-0, and so I was kind of like, I was like, you know what, man? I was like, I'm not going to sit here and watch the Eagles. Like, I guess the Eagles are as good as they say they are. Right? And I was about to change the channel. And right as I was about to change the channel, that's when I saw the play where Jalen Hurts tried to switch hands and fumbled it in dude Bolton from Kansas City, grabs the ball up and is gone. I'm like, well, Houston, we have a game. This is not gonna be something that that ends up being a blowout one way or another. And I honestly think that's what turned it around, because I want to say Kansas City had just come off of a 3-and-out, and that play like put them back in the game and gave them life again. Um, so it's man. Now, when you look at it in the first half, the Eagles did everything right. You know, it looked like they were going to keep Mahomes in check. And even towards the end of the first half, me and Suave saw it differently, but I saw Mahomes limp off the field. I heard the commentators talking about like he's questionable to return after half, even though it's the Super Bowl, y'all. We both knew like he's coming back. But I heard them say stuff like that about him. So I thought the game was damn near over, because if Mahomes doesn't come back, the Chiefs don't win anything. No offense, Chad Henne or whoever the backup for Mahomes is now, but no Mahomes, no title for the Chiefs is the way I see it. What were your thoughts heading into that half? Mahomes looks like he might be hurt. Eagles up 10. Is this game over for you, Suave?
No, just because you know what Mahomes is capable of. You know, you figure it's a Super Bowl. Had it been regular season, he probably doesn't come back. They probably don't risk it, but you know, they gave him the shot or something in the training room just to numb the pain and to get him back out there, because he was looking pretty spry in that second half. So, you know, it's Super Bowl. You're going to end up with some time off. So, you know, you take the shot or you take some pills or you do something, and they got him back out on the field.
Well, I think that if you look at his stat line, his second half stat line, it was the epitome of dink and dunk. Like, I think he was 13 of 14 for like 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, if that's not the epitome of dink and dunk, like you're not hitting guys with big chunks with that kind of yardage. What is that? 13 divided by 90 something would be something like what? Like maybe 40, maybe 4 or 5 yards a throw.
Yeah, something like seven, or something like that. Just under, maybe 6.
Like that's just insane to me. But and Pacheco turned out to be a pretty damn good thing. Here's the thing I was impressed of as far as the whole game: the vaunted Eagles defensive line. Ooh. Well, looks like Andy Reid, even though Kyle Shanahan couldn't come up with a scheme to stop him, and neither could 17 other teams, as they ended up with 70 sacks on the season. Kansas City figured out a way with a patchwork O line to keep Patrick Mahomes standing for most of the game, and keep the Eagles off the board with 0 sacks. Pretty sure they had a few pressures, but 0 sacks. That's pretty impressive. What are your thoughts on that Kansas City offensive line?
I mean, that's kind of what they done the last couple of years. I mean, ever since the COVID year when they lost a player to an all-pro type player to going out to fight the infection, or the pandemic. So it's been pretty patchwork. But they did a good job, changed the game plan, made a lot of quick short throws. They went to the dink and dunk. They started using the run game a bit more. They also did a lot of moving their guys around to give Mahomes a real clear picture of what the defense was trying to do, and it was hard for them to really get pressure on them for the most part. I mean, they did play fairly good defense until the second half, and when it became more of a shootout, and there were a couple opportunities that they missed, and there were some times where they felt like they were about to get to Mahomes, and then Mahomes stepped up and was able to scramble on them. So they came close a couple times to getting them, but yeah, overall, you got to give Kansas City their props for giving up no sacks from Mahomes, even though he was a little dinged up, but he still worked his magic in the pocket, kind of like Russell Wilson. So I mean, I really like how the offensive line came together. They put together a solid game, and I'm a little surprised that they didn't throw more blitzes and try and do some overloads. But when you're facing a quarterback the caliber of Mahomes, it's hard to do those types of stunt blitzes to get to the quarterback. So, but overall, I still think the Eagles defense, for the most part, had a good game. It's just a couple of breaks didn't go their way. I mean, um, they lucked out with one fumble for A.J. Williams that got turned into a incomplete pass that probably would have been returned for a touchdown. So that break went against or went for the Eagles. It was a shame that Jalen Hurts tried to, shake his hand and change the where he had the ball and ended up coughing that one up. I know that one will sit with him for a while, but overall, you got to give props to the Kansas City O line for doing their job against a real tough Eagles defense. You got to get them boys off the field so they can rest up, and unfortunately, they weren't able to do it all game.
Yeah, very true. You got to be able to get to the quarterback to stop the quarterback. That's kind of a must-have, so to speak. Um, but here's my deal. Like at the end of the day, I do appreciate the fact that the Eagles defense was um, or is like one of the historically great defenses as far as sacking the quarterback. Because hell, shit, the Niners defense this year was historically great as far as their impact throughout the regular season. They just didn't carry that into they weren't able to carry that into the Super Bowl. But I think also that Kansas City has this grit about them when they get to that Super Bowl level. Like I have to admit it, having had my Niners play them, you know, in a previous Super Bowl and actually have a decent lead and have basically what happened to the Eagles happen to us. It's time to give Kansas City their flowers. Like Andy Reid, damn, the dude's been what? He went to what? He went to or five NFC Championship games with the Eagles and went to what? One or two Super Bowls?
Yeah, just the one, only the
Yeah.
one.
And then now he's been with Kansas City and they've gone to five straight AFC Championship games and he's gone to two Super Bowls and won them both. I think we need to start
No,
talking.
three.
What's up?
He's gone to three Super Bowls. They got mollywopped by Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah. So he's 2-2 in Super Bowls now with this Super Bowl win.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, when do we start giving Andy Reid his props as a head coach? Like I'm not gonna sit here and deny that he's had some great quarterbacks dating back all the way to Donovan McNabb. You know, and Warren Moon was Houston. Who was the one that McNabb was the one in Philly. So yeah, you know, with McNabb and now with Patrick Mahomes. But man, let's start giving this man his flowers.
Yeah, two teams winning 100 games with two different teams. I mean, that's pretty much it right there. Even if he hadn't, pulled out these last couple of Super Bowls, it's still great. I mean, Mahomes, he's the one that was there when they drafted him. When they already had Alex Smith, they take Mahomes at a 9 or 10, and then turn Mahomes into one of the best or help turn Mahomes into one of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not the best quarterback in the league right now. So I mean, yeah, you got to give Andy Reid his due. He's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer. I wouldn't necessarily put him on that Belichick line, but he's got to be right there, one or two notches below.
%. Like you said, he's not quite Belichick, but he's got to be up there somewhere. You know, because to do what he's done and win as much as he has, like you can't just deny him. You know, like other quarterback or other coaches, like I'll use Shanahan for example. Shanahan has a coaching tree. Like whether people believe it, like, and we're not just talking about his father. Kyle now has his own branch that has branches. You know, of head coaches that have come out of his system or that have worked with him, etc. You know, shit. We got two black head coaches right now that are former Shanahan students, or not students, but former Shanahan used to work with them. And D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh. You know, and so
Yeah, and I believe the guy. And I believe the guy in Miami, if I'm not mistaken.
He came off of he came off of the offensive side. He was the not run game. He was the pass game coordinator for Shanahan's offense. So I'm just like, his dad had a nice little tree of coaches that came off of. I want to say, did Shanahan come off the Walsh tree?
That sounds right, but that's going way back. I can't say 100%.
Or did Shanahan? I wonder if it was that, or if it was Shanahan coached against Walsh, and then had his own tree. But like, yeah, man, like you look at these coaches now, and the coaches we grew up watching, Buddy Ryan and all of them guys, Mike Shanahan, they all have coaching trees underneath them now. Andy Reid, though, like, I'll say it like this. Andy Reid has hired a couple of defensive coordinators that had head coaching experience, but Eric Bieniemy is getting robbed. Like, that dude should be a head coach somewhere. Like, why he's barely even getting interviews is beyond me.
Yeah, I mean, this time will come. You know, everybody gets pumped up. He probably should have had opportunities so far, but you know, they just been going other directions. You know, some people want offense, and then for other people like D'Amico beating them out for the Texans job, D'Amico wasn't a Texan, so you know, I think that played into it as well. But eventually, I think he'll get his run. It happens. It just, you know, going to take a little bit of time.
For sure. All right, well, we'll stop there and take our first and only break of the day. We'll be back in about 5 minutes after you listen to some commercials about our Live 365 station. And we'll talk more Super Bowl and NFL playoffs. And maybe we'll even touch on that whole, you know, that guy over there dribbling that brown ball. You know, he set some kind of record or something. I think LeBron is what they call him. No, I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about that when we get back right here on First Gen Xers Presents The Classroom. Peace. Hey guys, it's Double KK Double here. I'm here to bring you the new weekly schedule, Monday through Friday, for this wonderful network, the new rebranded First Gen Xers Radio Network. Hope you guys have been enjoying classic episodes from the Four Aces Presents Radio Network, which turned into First Gen Xers. We still have some of the same great shows, but this time it's just with a more gamer type twist. Now, let's get to the classic episodes Monday through Friday right here on Four Aces, or First Gen Xers Radio. Sorry, I got that wrong. West Coast Bias opens us up at 12:30 in the morning with new episodes Monday through Friday, or new classic episodes Monday through Friday. We follow that up now with Now versus Then classic episodes at 3 a.m. At 6:30 a.m., we follow that up with Double K's Classroom, a half hour of sports magic for you. New daily there. And then a classic episode of KD5P, the same show that you can hear here every week on Saturday nights at 8. And then that's at 7:15 a.m. At 9:45 a.m., we then move on to NVT Deuce Classic. And that precedes the 1 o'clock Cheap Pop Podcast Revisited episode, Monday through Friday. And then we have West Coast Bias Revisited. It's the replay of the morning episode, 3 a.m. morning episode at 3:30 p.m. A replay of the 7:15 a.m. KD5P at 5:45 p.m. A replay of the Now versus Then Classic from 3 a.m. at 8:15 a.m. And we close the day with another strong episode of Double K's Classroom at 11:30. So I hope you guys continue to listen in, tune in, and see what's coming, because we got a lot more going right here on the First Gen Xers Radio Network. Peace. And I'm back. This time I'm here to bring you the Saturday lineup for right here on First Gen Xers Radio Network. Again, thank you for listening in. The Saturday lineup opens up at 12:30 a.m. with Brick House, then followed up by 2:45 a.m. with Reality Radio Classic. We then move on to 5:30 a.m. where we see Ms. Optimism bring one of her classic episodes right here to First Gen Xers Radio Network. 8 a.m. sees the Sidebar return with a classic episode every Saturday. And 10:45 sees Dirty Talk 101 with that girl Essie. 1:15 on Saturdays sees Mr. Deacon's Experience get revisited, classic episodes of Mr. Deacon Experience, and then 4 p.m. sees the Raw Impact Unleashed, Raw Impact Unleashed on Saturday and Sunday, and then at 6:30 p.m. we have a 1-hour condensed episode of Dirty Talk 101. And then the last episode of the night would be me here live at 8 p.m. on Saturday with KD 5P, a brand new episode every week. So be sure to tune into those episodes on Saturdays every week right here on the 4 Presents Radio Network. And next up, we will have the Sunday episodes. Peace. And last but not least, we do the Sunday lineup for First Gen Xers Radio. And it opens again, just like on Saturday, with Brick House 2.0 Classic. New episode from the Sunday episode. Reality Radio checks in at 2:45 a.m. And then we go to Ms. Optimism Classic at 5:30 a.m. Followed by the Sidebar again at 8 a.m. Dirty Talk 101 at 10:45 with Essie and the girls, and then we have the Mr. Deacon Experience at 1:15, followed by a live edition of the Classroom featuring either Double K, O'Malley, Suave, The Duel, or some combination thereof, debating the hottest topics in sports today. Then we'll have at 4:20, the new episode of Raw Impact Revisited. Then you have Dirty Talk 101, a replay episode from earlier in the day from the 10:45 episode, AM episode, and then Mr. Deacon Revisited, which is a replay at 8:30, which is a replay of the 1:15 episode of Mr. Deacon on Sundays. Then we get back to Mondays. So I want to thank you guys real quick and tell you that you can also find us at the First Gen Xers Facebook page. You can also find us at First Gen Xers on Twitter, and you can always also find us at First Gen Xers, the fan page on Facebook. You can find me personally at Double KK Double on YouTube, Double KK Double on Twitter, or the Double KK Double Network Facebook page. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for listening in. On to the next episode. Peace. All right, and so we are back now. That's right, you heard me. We're back from our little break. And let's see what we can do with you and me. Now, let's finish up this Super Bowl talk. Now, me and Suave have landed on different sides of the fence when it comes to this. I've said to me that the fact of what the Chiefs did to the Eagles defense in the Super Bowl proves to me that with competent quarterback play, there was a good chance the 49ers could have beaten the Eagles. Suave slightly disagrees. Why don't you let him know what you think, Suave?
I just don't think it was the Niners' year, and I don't think that even if Purdy stays healthy, I still think it was the Eagles' year to end up in the bowl. I think everything was lining up just right, and honestly, if not for a couple of mistakes in the bowl, they probably had a real good chance of winning it. But when it comes to the Niners against the Eagles, I just don't think it was the Niners' year at that point.
I can understand where you're coming from, where it feels kind of like a team of destiny thing. And I agree in the sense that I think that the reason why they got out and were able to hurt, whatchamacallit, or put us in the position that they put us in by hurting him was just because of the fact that we were already busted up, etc. Like I said, we were running on house money, so to speak, being that, we got there with our third string quarterback, or the Niners got there with their third string quarterback. There's maybe about 5% of the teams in the NFL who could even come close to doing that, making it that far. I just think it sucks. Like, I would have loved to have seen how that game played out with Purdy healthy, because the kid made good choices. And like I said, as far as next year goes, I think he has an opportunity to snag the starting job away from Trey Lance, but I think Trey will be given every opportunity to be the starter going into next year, possible throughout training camp and preseason. But I just think that if Purdy continues to show the poise and all of that that he showed throughout the what 8 games straight he won, 7 games straight he won to open his career, I think it's his job to lose. And George Kittle would agree with me, but there are others who wouldn't. What do you think there, Suave?
Well, I'm going to say it like this. As long as they continue to allow Purdy to actually play quarterback, then Purdy will probably win that job. If they continue to use Trey Lance as a running quarterback and then they want to, have him do quarterback design runs 5 to 10 times a game, Trey Lance isn't going to survive enough, and Purdy eventually is just going to win the job outright because of injuries. So, I just don't see a situation or scenario where Shanahan stops running Lance and putting him in harm's way. And we've seen it with all the guys that run. Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton. They all start to get banged up because they're not actually exclusively playing quarterback. They're playing a hybrid of quarterback, a scrambling quarterback, whatever position you want to call it. And you tend to get a little bit more injuries than a normal pocket passing quarterback. Purdy's a pocket passer. He has the ability to move the pocket a little bit and do some scrambles, but they're not giving him any quarterback design runs. If Shanahan changes his philosophy on Trey Lance and actually allows him to just play quarterback, then I think Trey Lance will have a shot at winning the job. But until he shows that that's where he's willing to go, I think it's Purdy's job to lose, quite honestly.
Now, as much as I understand what you're saying about, none of us want to see Trey Lance's career cut short or his career not ever really bloom in San Francisco because he's hurt. But also at the same time, that's a facet of Lance's game. Like that's the thing about it. Like you can't just all of a sudden cut that facet off and say, "All right, kid, you're injury prone, so no more running for you." Like that would be like if Jalen Hurts got hurt and all of a sudden the Eagles said, "Okay, even though you running the football is probably because like Jalen Hurts showed if it's done correctly, like you can run your quarterback quite a bit and win games if you have a good enough defense." Chicago showed that you can do it. That you can do it even when you have a bad defense. You just won't win many games. Justin Fields was 7th in rushing this year with like almost 1,100 or a little over 1,100 yards.
Yeah. I'm just not a believer that, I don't think that running quarterback is in Shanahan's forte of being successful. And so far from what I've seen from Shanahan, he's had 2 running quarterbacks, and they've both been getting injured a lot. One had his career derailed by injury, and the other one has had his beginning of his career stunted by injuries.
Yeah, but does that have to do with Shanahan's offense, or does that have more to do with their fragility?
I'm going to put it on Shanahan's offense because other running quarterbacks or scrambling quarterbacks haven't been necessarily getting injured as much.
See, but what Philly runs in Philly and what Baltimore runs are both hybrid versions of Shanahan's offense. Like they're both run block schemes. They're both hybrid versions. So I think that it's been successful, but you also got to look at the body frame of a Lamar Jackson versus the body frame of an RG3. Like I loved RG3, but that dude wasn't a big dude. Like he was not a big dude at all. At least not big enough to be making running a major factor in his in his game. But I think Lance is of a different ilk because I think Lance is a little bit thicker, and I think an inch or two taller than RG3.
Yeah, but also I think that RG3 played hurt when he shouldn't have for the sake of the team versus the sake of himself. And in hindsight, I'm sure that if he could do it all over again, he would have told him, "I'm too hurt to play," which is essentially what Lamar Jackson did this last season to Baltimore.
Very true. All right, so let's wrap this up with the conversation nobody wants to have. few nights ago, I think it was about a week. I think it was mid last week, in a game against that they ended up losing against the Oklahoma City Thunder. LeBron James gave himself another argument. I'm going to put it like that. Gave himself another argument or another item for his case of being goated or being seen as the greatest player ever. And for some, he already is. For some that put them over the top. For some, he already was. So it's strengthening the numbers of his majority GOAT case. Trying to close the gap with Jordan, who is still the majority GOAT. Suave, what are your thoughts on his accomplishment and also what it means to his legacy?
I mean, I'm just gonna say this candidly. For it helping his GOAT conversation, I don't believe it does. I mean, let's be honest. If LeBron was actually interested in really winning, he wouldn't be making the money he's making, which would allow the team to make better moves. Let's just look at the game he broke the record in. It was a game in which they needed the win, and when he got the record, he sat the rest of the game, and they coughed it up to Oklahoma City. That's not GOAT worthiness. I'm sorry. I mean, how do you get yourself this record and then sit the rest of the game? And it's not like they were like 40-10 or something like that, or winning every 3 out of 4 games, and now they're going to sit for this one game and just eat the L. Okay, I could take that, but you're a sub 500 team fighting for your playing life, and in a game you couldn't afford to cough up to a weaker opponent, and you get the record and then sit on your butt. I think that he's gone as soon as he got the bubble ring. I think that LeBron was content getting, hoping for one more instead of doing what's actually needed to get another ring. He kind of hope and prayed for a ring. They bring in Westbrook, which was a horrendous fit, and they stick with him for a year and a half. They should have never got him in the first place. Then they want to try and deal him for Kyrie, and I'm not sure that even though we see him play well with Kyrie, well, now you've also got AD there, and AD is not going to take that Kevin Love role. It is not happening. That's a whole different avenue. AD was not going to let Kyrie come in and jack up 30 shots a game without him getting his 20, 25 shots a game up as well. So I just think that, is it good for LeBron? Yeah, he's going to go down as arguably the greatest of this era. It's very rare for a player to come in and be handed the reins to a team and be allowed to do whatever he wants offensively. And, it's a nod to his longevity and to the avenues that allow the longevity of athletes in this era. But, I mean, you can make a case for Bron being the greatest of his era. I don't think you can make it for GOAT. And you'd be hard-pressed to win an argument that he's even the greatest of his own era, because Stephen Curry has done the things that he needs to do to have just as many rings on one team versus needing the team hop to better situations throughout his career to get his 4 rings. So for all them Bron lovers, all them Brondashians, whatever you want to call them, for all the Bron lovers, you can make a case, but I got a real good case for Stephen Curry as well. And while this all-time record is something that we all know LeBron was gunning for, because he was hoping that because he's already lost a ton of finals, he was hoping that this would be the thing that could prop him up. But here's the thing, Bron fans. If it wasn't good enough for Kareem to be high up on your list when LeBron was already number 1 in your thought process, what do you think? How do you think this makes LeBron number 1 if Jabbar wasn't up there already? Jabbar has more titles, more MVPs, or just as many MVPs. He just lost the scoring record after what's it been, almost like 40 years. So, I mean, if it wasn't good enough for Jabbar to be high up on your list, but LeBron was your number 1, then how do you think that's going to supplant LeBron having this record and then beating out the people that have MJ or almost anybody else above Bron? I just don't see it.
For me, I'll be honest with you. The reason why he'll never be able to pass Jordan for me And like I said, I say that appropriately for me. It doesn't have to be for everybody. But the reason why he won't be able to pass Jordan for me is more and less. Jordan accomplished more than LeBron has to this point in his career in less time. Period. Like and there's no way for LeBron to go back in time and accomplish more in before year 15. So sorry, bro, your case ended at that point. Once you got to year 16, 17, your case ended as far as I was concerned. And a lot of people can call me a hater. They can say whatever they want, but show me a reason why I should put him above that. When you can tell me, okay, yeah, well, competition, da da da. I'm so sick and tired of the competition argument, but we won't get into that. We can talk about that next time. But at the end of the day, more and less. And so, yeah, Max Kellerman said it great. LeBron's had a better overall career than Jordan, but Jordan had a better peak, an almost unreachable peak. And that's what people just don't get. But all right, man, we're gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna ask you two quick fire questions at you. Give us your answer, and then we'll close it down. Question number one, if you haven't already, are you planning to watch any of the XFL games this weekend? And number two, who's your favorites to go to the Super Bowl next year?
Well, for the XFL and the USFL, I mean, if I happen to catch it, maybe. If there's some type of intriguing storyline, possibly, but, it's not really drawing my attention like the original XFL. That one, you actually felt like you had to watch to see what was happening, but now we've been there and done that so many times. The only question really is how long is either of these leagues going to actually survive, or will the NFL actually step up and start making them the minor leagues for their league, so that way they can hold on to more talent and guys that didn't really get a shot. Will this expand out to where they, kind of like the G League, where the teams envelop the XFL or USFL, and now it's, the Niners minor leagues or the Raiders minor leagues, and then they can bring guys up and down versus that instead of losing them on the practice squad. I think that's the avenue one of these leagues really needs to go. So that way these guys are actually getting play time. They don't have to go to Europe. They can stay, local, and then still have an opportunity to kind of shine. The guys that didn't really get a shot, the guys that didn't necessarily get drafted. And let's be honest, people can say they didn't deserve to be drafted, and that's fine. But we've seen lots of players that finally got their shot and ended up being real good. Now, the high end, Kurt Warner, didn't really get his shot in the NFL, went to the Arena League, blew up. We've seen a couple of other Arena League guys come up. We saw some XFLers come up and get an opportunity. So, there's a future Tom Brady. There's a future Joe Montana who just wasn't necessarily good enough to get drafted because of, for whatever knock or reason, and they can have an extra avenue to get it and make it into the big show. As for my favorites for the next bowl, I mean, I think we might get a rematch against the Eagles and Chiefs. I know it's hard for two teams to make it back there, but I really like how both of those teams are kind of made up. I don't see the Eagles losing necessarily a lot of pieces this offseason. I was talking to a buddy who's an Eagles fan, and I think they might lose two people on the D-line, and Ndamukong Suh and maybe one other person. But for the most part, that team's going to be intact in his own rookie-scale contracts on the offensive end. As long as their offensive line can stay together, I think they have a good shot. And Mahomes, I mean, at the moment, I can't really bet against Mahomes. Everybody, the era of his quarterbacks are starting to die down, and he's the man on top, last man standing kind of deal, and he's the best of them. So I wouldn't be mad at a rematch. Now, I would definitely like to watch it and hope that the refs suck in the whistle with 2 minutes to go.
Yeah, we never did touch on that. We'll get to that in another episode. But here's what I'll say. First of all, you were right about the XFL stuff. He Hate Me was one of the guys that got a shot in the league because of his XFL prowess when he was playing out there. And as far as the whatchamacallit, you say the Eagles didn't lose much as far as players, but they lost two huge pieces in their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator to head coaching jobs. So that's huge. That's a completely different coordinator in Jalen Hurts' ear, and that's a different guy running that defense. So we'll see if they can come back. Like I said, it's as difficult to get back to 2 Super Bowls in a row. I think Mahomes Oh yeah, Rod Woodson. Saint just told me he's in the chat room that Rod Woodson is the coach of the Las Vegas XFL team. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for them, just like it's going to be difficult for the Niners to continue that the defensive dominance that they had throughout this season, having lost D'Amico Ryans and replaced him with Steve Wilkes, the former head coach from the Carolina. But I will say this, guys. I wonder if this year would have been any different had the rumors I heard about basically at the end of the day for Ndamukong Suh, it came down to the 49ers and the Eagles. I wonder what happens if the scales get tipped and he plays for San Francisco instead of Philly. Who knows? Might have made a difference. Might have not made a difference. Who knows? All I know is they beat us. They got there. Congratulations to them. But other than that, we're gonna wrap it up here. Saint, thanks for tuning in. We're going to call it a close. Next week, we should have O'Malley. She should be back off the injured list. Suave here will be back in a couple of weeks. And we'll talk probably some basketball at that point because we'll be getting to, by the time you come back, we'll be getting to the heat of the whatchamacallit, so we can talk some Warriors. But thank y'all for tuning in. For all of you that did. Suave, thank you for being here with me and debating some good sports. And we'll see y'all next week. Peace.